Before I left for Colombia, I did what any responsible traveler would do. I checked travel advisories on government websites, specifically the Government of Canada. Bad idea. It listed page after page after page, like a book of information about all the things that are going on in Colombia, of which you should be afraid and be very careful. Kidnappings, narco-terrorism issues, scopolamine, dating scams, taxi scams, Paseo del Millonario, the ride of the millionaire, endless amounts of dangerous situations. Don't go to Colombia. Then they showed the map. Avoid all travel in this part of the country. Avoid all travel that isn't absolutely necessary in this other part of the country. And exercise extreme caution in these other parts of the country. There were no green zones anywhere on the mainland. Next, I did what any experienced, intelligent, thinking, rational, sane traveler does. I started gathering on-the-ground intel. I was talking mostly to single young women in their 20s traveling alone who had been in Colombia 1 month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago. And every single one of them had the same thing to say. Oh my God, I loved it. It was amazing. I had a great time. I didn't want to leave. I can't wait to go back. It's my favorite place that I've ever been. And the thing is, both of these descriptions of the exact same country are real. Colombia is a country of stark contrasts. A dark and complicated past that isn't entirely in the rearview mirror. And some of the most open, honest, resilient, friendly, kind people that I have ever met anywhere traveling through Latin America or other parts of the world. This video is about the Colombia that I found. The real Colombia. Steve here, Street Smart Travel. This is another in the ongoing series of Feelgood Friday stories. These are stories about positive, inspiring, real situations, experiences that I've had on the road that continue to restore my faith in humanity. Today is a retrospective look at my time, the 3 months in general, and some of the main takeaways from my time on the ground. And my hosts in Pasto welcomed me with open arms into their community, into their family, into their lives as soon as I got there. I've been traveling for a couple days, got to their place, and immediately that night we did an all-night Yaga ceremony, an ayahuasca ceremony. Everybody in that place, about 70 people, I didn't know any of them. I was one of 2 gringos, and the other guy was married to a Colombian lady and had been living there for years. And still, I felt welcome as soon as I got there. This was the inaugural ceremony, the opening ceremony for the Casa de Pensamientos in Obonuco, just outside of Pasto. And it was a real honor to be invited to have that experience with these people in a fairly tight-knit community as the outsider. And I didn't feel at all like an outsider the whole night or the following morning, talking to other people who went through that same experience. They were super friendly, very curious, wanted to know who I was, why I chose to go to Colombia, how long I was going to stay, where I was going. Just very curious and welcoming at the same time. And that experience set the pace, set the tone for the rest of my time there. These same hosts took me to check out 3 days of Carnival, a 6-day ceremony. We went to a few different plant medicine ceremonies. Pacarremi. I led a couple meditations in Spanish for them and their group, and I made some great contacts in my time, not just in Pasto, but in going through the country. Very easy to get to know people there. They're genuinely interested in who you are and why you chose to come to their country. As has been my experience as a volunteer, traveling and volunteering through South America for over the last 3 years now, using Workaway, my hosts in Colombia were amazing. Every one of them was very hospitable, very friendly, helpful, good sense of humor. They were great hosts. And I much prefer traveling in that way as opposed to staying in hostels or hotels or resorts and going on guided tours. I would much rather experience the country, the culture, the language, everything through the eyes of people from the place that I'm visiting. Locals. They give me the background, they can take me to the places where they know we're going to have a great time, it's going to be safe, I can meet other friends, of theirs have different experiences than I would if I struck out on my own. Now, if you're thinking about volunteering, definitely, I have a series on that. I'll leave a link in the description, the on-the-ground volunteering, to let you know how to get started doing that kind of stuff, and especially if you want to do it traveling around the world. For me, it's much more about getting to know the people there, serving them in meaningful ways. It's the best way that I found to travel after more than 30 years of traveling through Latin America, Southeast Asia, and other parts of the world. So it all comes down to me, to the connection that I have with the people, with the locals. And by doing volunteer work, I have a much more intimate and immediate contact. And as I mentioned in other parts of this video, they immediately welcome me into their family, into their community, into their lives. And we share our perspectives, our ideas, our experiences. Now, Colombia isn't all teddy bears, sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. There's a dark side, and I got to see it up close and personal. Some of the cities I was in, Popayan, for example, I saw a bunch of homeless people, broken, drunk, lost, people living in the streets. And it didn't stop there. Anytime I was in a transit, it was usually a microbus, a minivan, something of that nature, going from place to place. There would be military and/or police checkpoints where we had to get out of the vehicle, show our ID, government-issued ID, passport or a cedula or whatever you had, and the police would check the luggage hold and give the vehicle a once-over. They were stopping everybody. And they weren't doing that for no reason. They were doing that to screen dangerous narco-terrorists and other issues, security issues that exist in the country. I got to see one of those up close and personal too, on a bus trip from Popayan down to Pasto towards the end of my time there. The road was shut down at one point, just outside of a small town called El Bordo. And the bus driver said, hey, you can walk up to the front of where the problem is and see if you can get through. And by the time I got there, the military had rolled in heavily armored vehicles, and they were fully strapped. And they really didn't want me there, but I got to see, yeah, this wasn't a car crash. This was a car bombing. There were rocks and branches and leaves and debris all over the road. Like, clearly, this was not an accident. There were a lot of other reports about scams, kidnappings. One of my hosts had been robbed twice, 2 times. He's Colombian, in Colombia, at gunpoint, for his money and his cell phone. So these things exist next to all of the good things about Colombia, and in really stark contrast to the people there, especially the people that I met in 3 months of traveling all over the country. That those 2 versions of Colombia can exist side by side. They don't cancel each other out, but they do starkly contrast with each other, from the dark, dangerous, seedy underbelly to some of the friendliest, happiest, nicest people that I've ever met anywhere. Also of note is when I crossed into the country at Rumichaca, the border crossing overland was the only one that was open. Every other crossing between Ecuador and Colombia was closed. I didn't know that. I just happened to pick the busiest one that happened to be open. And 3 months later, when I returned to Ecuador, that was the only crossing between the 2 countries that was open. And you could only do it on foot. More of an ongoing Tariff War that is going on right now between Colombia and Ecuador. And when I crossed over at the beginning of my visit, December 27th, it was easy to navigate and vehicles could go through. When I came back towards the end of March 2026, there was no way, aside from going on foot, that you were going to get across the border. It just wasn't going to happen. There was something in Colombia, and I'm struggling to put my finger on it exactly. I'll do my best to describe it here. I can't find the words to express it any other way than to say there was a sense of hopefulness with everybody that I met, all the places I went to, all the experiences that I had. They were actively planning their lives and doing things to create a brighter future for themselves, for their families, for their communities. And you could see it in the pride of ownership, in their properties, in their businesses. People were out shopping. There was a vibe of hopefulness that permeated everything in the country, despite some of the dark experiences and the scams and narco-terrorists and other issues that go on a daily basis. There was a feeling of the future is going to be better than the past. These are the people that I met. Here's some of the experiences I've had. And these are friendships that I established in a very short period of time that I think, and we'll see, will stand the test of time. I'm looking forward to going back and visiting many of these hosts in the future, ideally on a much longer visit. A lot of them didn't even care about Workaway and volunteering. They're like, yeah, I'm glad you're here. If we can get some work done, that's great, but it's more important that we hang out and have a good time and enjoy life. I'm like, wow, yes, this. I remember a time in my life when I used to think that way too. And just living in the first world for so long, it just had been drummed out of me entirely. My life is just about going to work, making money, and consuming. And life in Latin America in general, and in Colombia specifically, was, okay, we have some work to do, but we're also going to make time to enjoy our lives with our families, with our friends, with our communities. And that's something I'm definitely taking with me when I leave Colombia. It's something that's so simple and elemental. Why would you not make time in your life to enjoy your life with the people in your life that are important to you? I found as I was getting older in the West, I was doing less and less of that just because everybody was so busy doing their own thing. But that was one of the biggest lessons that I'll take from Colombia. Make time for the people in your life that are important to you, to enjoy things together. Prioritize that. That's something I think that we've lost in the West almost entirely. Now, if you've been enjoying the video so far, please drop a like and a comment. If you're not already, please subscribe, and please do share these videos with anybody you think may benefit by them and or enjoy them. Also, if you have been to Colombia, please drop me a comment below. Let me know what was your biggest takeaway. That was an outstanding 3 months trip. I can't wait to go back and do at least 6 months because that went by way too fast. Looking forward to meeting more people, having more adventures, and enjoying and sharing more time with the people of Colombia on future visits. Colombia didn't erase my concerns or those concerns listed on the government advisory website. There was only one border crossing that was open, and it was a lot more open when I went to Colombia than it was 3 months later when I returned from Colombia. I got to see a car bombing. I got to see homeless people. I heard lots of stories of crime. I heard one of my hosts tell me how he had been robbed twice. Colombian guy, 2 times robbed in his own hometown. But what I also saw was a lot of very friendly, helpful, kind, funny, humorous, happy people that were very welcoming and made me feel at home immediately, part of the community, part of their family. I'm super glad that I found the information on the advisory, but I also found intel on the ground from people who had just been to Colombia. Both of those things were valid, and I'm taking experiences away from both of those worlds, the dark part and the lighter, happy part. But those are the experiences you can never have if you just read a report on a website and decide, okay, I'm not going to go. I'm not saying ignore travel advisories, but I am saying sometimes it's worth it to get on a bus, hop over the border, and check it out firsthand. I'm super glad that I did. This is the real Colombia that you don't get any other way aside from getting boots on the ground, breaking bread with people, sharing time, learning how they live, and having an immersion experience in their family, in their community, in their lives. I was invited into family meetings. I had very intimate conversations with people about their personal lives and their families, and they asked me for advice on things. I led a couple meditation classes while I was down there, and somebody was going through a very difficult time, and I'm still in touch with him to help give him tips and ideas about how to navigate his situation and hopefully give him some positive things to look forward to in his life. Feelgood Friday videos come out the first Saturday of every month. Every single episode of Feelgood Friday is based on real stories, my experiences with real people on the road. No filter, no BS, no fear porn. These are real stories, real experiences that I share in the hopes that other people can get a window into other parts of the world that maybe they don't want to visit, but maybe they're tired of the news cycle. Maybe they're tired of all the negativity and think, oh, this guy's out there doing this stuff. I don't mind watching his channel and his adventures and asking questions and reading comments. And please, any comments or questions, drop them below. I'm happy to answer anything that I can. Thanks for stopping by. happy trails. See you out on the road next Saturday.